Hello and welcome to Light Warrior Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Karen Can, author of the #1 bestseller, Sensitivity is Your Superpower, How to Harness Your Gifts, Fulfill Your Purpose, and Create a Life of Joy. And thanks to the man we have today, that book is actually published because of the wonderful, wonderful, amazing support and mentorship from my beautiful friend, Marcus Bird, who is also my mentor for Activator Healer Coach, Dimensional Therapy was what it was called previously. And
Yeah.
we're doing these segments on dimensional deep dives. We're going to go right into
Woo.
the woo woo. And so Marcus and I have known each other for, oh gosh, I've forgotten how many years yet. But it has been a while.
A
And I just
while.
keep following him like a lost puppy. What are you doing now, Marcus? Can I go there? Yeah,
Love
so
it.
that's really
Love it.
fun. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
had, we've had some really great topics that we've had,
Yeah.
Marcus, and so welcome again back to Light Warrior
Thank
Radio. Thank
you.
you.
Fantastic. Thanks. Love being here. Love our conversations and yeah, love the journey together over the last, I don't know, 10 years, is it? Or
Yeah,
something.
something like that.
Wow. It's a while.
Yeah,
So yeah, yeah. And
yeah.
it's
I
been
actually remember our last in-person event. We
yes,
were concerned that you were going to be trapped in Canada.
that's right. I was. We were all concerned I was going to be trapped in Canada.
Yes, and I remember you even showing a live video from
Yeah.
Pearson International Airport, I think it was,
Yes.
where there was
Yes.
nobody there.
Yeah, it was crazy. The whole
Yeah, it was
place was
like,
crazy. It was a
yeah, and
ghost
I
town.
was like, I know that airport. I mean, I used to live
Yeah,
in Canada, right? And I was
yeah,
like,
yeah. It's a busy airport.
crazy
It's
stuff. And then
crazy.
then you
So,
got quarantined for 2 weeks.
yeah, just crazy, stupid thing. God, it's sort of funny now, right? But it's like, oh my God, how
Yeah,
did we fall for that one? I mean, it was just kind of an interesting time. It was a very interesting time, and still is, right? It's now
it
spurred
still
on all
is.
sorts of amazing things, which is probably, getting us to here and allowing us to have these conversations. Maybe we wouldn't have if, you know, who
Exactly.
knows? So it's been fantastic. So we love the deep dive into dimensional realms, and so yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah, this is great. I really do believe that everything happens for a reason. That reason's there to serve us, and sometimes it's very
Totally.
uncomfortable and it's not what we planned.
No.
Uh, but you and I are both very passionate about awakening and shifting the consciousness of the planet and evolving. So, that maybe we wouldn't be here together in this
Maybe. Who
way.
knows? Yeah,
Yeah, if it
exactly.
wasn't for that. Yeah. So,
Yeah. So it's great. Very grateful for that. So yay.
yay. Okay. So
Yes.
today, Marcus, I'd love for you to share something that you had shared with me a while back.
Right.
It has different names. So the idea was around, healing through, I'll say traditional, where we're like, okay, we're going to heal, we're going to go to the
Yeah.
naturopath, and we're going to get
Yeah.
these supplements and this diet, and then our bodies have
Yeah.
to heal
Yeah.
the gut, and then we've got to do this step by step by step.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And, it takes quite a bit of time. And then you showed me this
Yeah.
wonderful model that you're going to show us, where you're like, well,
Yeah.
yeah,
Absolutely.
actually, you could do that long way, or
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
could do a quantum jump. So I'll let you take it over
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
share what we're talking about.
Well, yeah, I mean, I mean, this concept goes really, really deep, and it really takes us from that linear perspective of reality into more a sort of spherical view of reality. And even though we're going to talk about sort of the journey to wellness or health or healing or whatever you want to call it, this is also a bit of a model for how you move through dimensional time and space, how you actually transverse and transition through, vast distances very, very quickly. So it's kind of an interesting model and an interesting way to think about it. And apart from sort of receiving this information, where the sort of penny dropped for me was with my kids. And when my kids were very, very young, I'm going to share that in a second. But let's draw what I'm talking about, and then we'll look at how this epiphany sort of appeared, but how the reality now sort of settles in. And I know with the healing that we do, that your methodology does, and your beautiful healers do, they do work with this model to be able to have this sort of miracle healing or instant healing or whatever you want to call it. Um, and it's also, a way that you can sort of set yourself up to heal much, much faster at quantum speed, as you might say. So let me just share my screen here for a moment. I think the old world of sort of healing looks very much like this. This is the linear model. And as you were saying, if this, if this here is sickness, and at the other end, we have this sort of concept of wellness. So often it's this sort of, it's this sort of journey from one side to the other, right? And like you said, you look at the gut and then you look at this and you see a naturopath and you see this and you do this. And, there are all these sort of steps. And I suppose from a more Western model, as we've both experienced, you take a tablet here and then a tablet there and then another tablet here, see a doctor here and a specialist there. And, at some point, if you're lucky, you'll make this journey from sickness to wellness. But because this is in a linear sort of timescape and time reality, then there's a clock that works here that, that means that it's going to take an amount of time to go from one side to the other. There's this linear progression that you've now got to take. There's these sort of steps that you've got to take along this journey. And, in my sort of world, that seems to be a kind of ridiculous, long-winded route to recovery. Like it just, it doesn't necessarily seem as logical as we've been led to believe. Our bodies are these incredible, machines, these biological machines that have incredible innate wisdom within it. And we know we hear stories often of people who've had these, rapid miracle healings into what might seem overnight sort of healings. And, how is this possible if this linear progression thing is absolutely the only way things can happen? And that can't be true. That can't be the reality. And again, I think this journey we've collectively been on, where I almost got stuck in Toronto, has been a real grand awakening to the reality of the quantum space, to the reality of the dimensional space. I like to call it more the sort of dimensional space so we don't get caught in quantum physics, because, quantum physics is also limited by the scientific understanding. Whereas when we go into sort of the concept of dimensional realms, we start to open up to quantum, but beyond, right? Beyond the quantum. And there are things beyond the quantum. Quantum physics now is quite a boxed in sort of linear understanding of how the universe works, but there are things beyond that they are exploring, but still don't necessarily sort of believe, or really embrace just yet. So I think we talk dimensionally about it, and then we get a really better understanding that we're beyond linear time and space, and we're into something way more possible, where instant is possible. And we know that, and science knows that instant is possible just because of the fact of, the concept of quantum entanglement. So quantum entanglement is where, two particles can be connected together, even if they're light years apart. You can take a particle that's quantum entangled with another particle, so a particle here on Earth, and put another particle on, I don't know, Arcturus or, some other planetary system. And if you affect the particle here, the particle over there is affected instantly at the same time. So if that's true, just by the fact of that reality, then, rapid healing, healing at the speed of the sort of quantum or dimensional has to be real. Like it has to be possible. It can't not be possible, because we are made up of those quantum particles that can quantum entangle themselves and can, can shift, change, move at the, faster than the speed of light, at what they might term tachyon type speed. So it is possible to, to heal faster. I'm going to share this sort of model of how that's possible. Because if we start bending time and space, right? If we start actually sort of bending time and space itself so that it's no longer this sort of straight line of linear progression, and it actually turns into this sort of sphere or this circular progression. And with this circular progression, we can certainly we can certainly, go from one space to the other and go right around the circle, which is still a sort of a linear sort of concept. And really, at these two ends of this concept is the same as what we have here in the linear progression. We have sickness on one side, and we have well on the other, or wellness on the other side. And we can still follow this progression around, but when you start to collapse lines into spheres or circles, something really magical happens. And really, this modeling concept, apart from the quantum idea and the dimensional information, really came from my children. And how that happened, which I think will give you a really good understanding, is that for anyone who's had children or been around children, what you'll notice with children is they can go from, sad to happy almost instantly. So 1 minute your children could be crying, and the next minute they're laughing and running around as if nothing at all happened. And the fun part about that is for them to actually achieve that, there's no way they could go sad. Oh, I'm sad, I'm not so sad, I'm a little bit happier. Oh, I'm getting more happier. Oh, now I'm happy. They couldn't do that. I mean, they do it instantly. And what I realized is that they have this opportunity where they do this sort of little quantum jump, quantum jump from one state to the other state. And the reason they could do that is because these states, or this process, is circular, and actually these two states from a frequency energy point of view are pretty much identically the same.
That's the freaky part. I got to tell you, that is really freaky.
That is the freaky part, right? That they are expressed in different ways, but the actual energetic quality of them are identically, or pretty much identically, the same type of frequency or resonance. And the inference of it is how the body then reads that resonance. And it either reads because of, it either reads sad or it reads happy, let's call it that, right? And it reads sad or happy based on belief systems and influences of the psychology and of the sort of heart space, of the emotions, the limbic system. But the energetic quality is nearly identical. And this is how you can transition from, let's call it sad, to happy in an instant, right? And we know this is also happens as an adult. As a child, you can see it happen right in front of your eyes. It's just brilliant to watch, right? It used to get me scratching my head because, you as a father and parent, you'd run up and you'd be, consoling the child. Oh, it's okay, you'll be fine, brush it off, you'll be okay. And then all of a sudden they're running around as if nothing happened, and you're going, hang on a minute, I'm trying to catch up, right? Because the adult linear brain is trying to do the sad to happy process by going round the circle, right? So this is what the adult's doing. It's going, oh, I'm going to take them from sad to happy, whereas the child's just gone straight across.
That makes me laugh, Marcus, so much, because these days I'll be like in the middle of a podcast, like totally like really, really happy, and like that, and all of a sudden I'll be telling us some story and I'll just go and start crying, and I'm like, great, not what I planned. And then it'll be like an instant state change because we'll be talking about something else. And I'm like, am I nuts or what? Because it's coming so more like easier, to go. And then it's like I know people know me well enough that they're not going, are you okay? Because they know I'm okay. It's like, I guess I'm crying right now. Okay. Cry. And then I'm back to whatever. It's just kind of crazy.
It's kind of interesting. And it's also how perspectives can change an emotion or a feeling nearly instantly, right? And the same theory applies. You can have one sort of state of thought or belief or whatever here, and then someone challenges that and you have that epiphany or awakening, and all of a sudden you're in a different, what seems to be a different state, right? Again, the energy, what we're separating here is resonance, this concept of resonance, versus things like feeling or emotions or beliefs or, these other processes which are embedded processes, which are slow processes to shift and change, right? Resonance, if you are sitting in resonance, you can dance amongst the stars through the resonant field, right? When you drop your resonance and drop out of that and dive into these feeling belief states, you get trapped in a frame of frequency that doesn't allow you to move and dance necessarily. And that's what happens. People get caught in an emotion or get caught in a belief, and it's very hard for them to budge, when actually that belief is just a tiny jump away.
Oh my God.
It's
That's so great that you mentioned this, because what I've been hearing sometimes, and then I have to maybe like challenge my own instant reaction to it, is that
Yeah,
when people go, "Oh, I've had all this trauma,"
yeah,
and they go on and on and on. Sorry, I sound really rude right now. But go on and
yeah,
on and on about all this trauma they have to heal from
yeah,
childhood, or trauma they have to heal
yeah,
from past lives.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, but that could be instant, right? Now, I'm not saying that to their face, but
Well,
is there
it
something to
is.
that?
It's
Like, because
it's
people get
totally
attached to their
true.
trauma?
Yeah, without a doubt. We definitely get attached to it, and I spent years when I was in my 20s, trying to heal daddy damage before I knew any of this information. I went to counseling, and I did years of counseling to overcome daddy damage, right? Haven't we all? And I really got to the end of that once I started learning this sort of stuff and I started the channeling. And, I reflected back on it and I went, okay, that's definitely one way to help, right? And it helped, for sure, it helped. Did it heal it? Did it remove it? Did it fully clear it? No, it didn't. It definitely made me feel better, but it didn't fully clear it. And then when I sort of got this concept, I realized, okay, what I was doing from the counseling point of view is I was going along this road, right?
Yep.
So I was starting to feel a little better, a little bit, a little better, a little better, a little better. But was it ever really going to get to here? And not really, because you're regurgitating that sort of stuff that keeps you stuck. The
Mm.
beliefs and the thoughts and the feelings and all of those sort of things. And again, I'm not suggesting you shouldn't do that, right? It can be very helpful, but I just think there's a better, faster, quicker way to sort of quantum leap or jump or transition from one state to the other state. Um,
Yes. Yeah.
Even simple things, Karen, like I apply this in so many different ways. I used to, I remember I used to, with an ex-wife of mine, I used to, every now and then you've got to go to your in-laws' place, you've got to go to a party or you've got to go to your in-laws' place. And I remember sometimes I used to be sitting in the car driving there going, oh, I just don't want to be, I don't want to go. Oh my God, I could be doing something else. I'm so busy. Right? I know, a bit rude and not, but you have these things. And then I thought to myself, hang on a minute, I can go the long way around to try and come to terms with what's going on. And chances are I might get halfway around. So I might not be as grumpy and as upset and as sort of frustrated about going. I might get halfway between I really want to go to I really don't want to go. And then it's still going to be awkward and people are going to sense that energy and it just doesn't, it's just, yeah. So then I applied this to that and I went, okay, what if in this moment, rather than going, I don't want to go, I actually I set myself, I do want to go. I can't wait to go. And I jumped that bridge. And it's really interesting because the minute you jump the bridge, the feelings of, oh, I don't want to go, I can't be bothered going, stop. The minute you choose and do that sort of, dimensional leap, everything shifts and changes. And so
Wow.
you can apply this in so many different ways, not just to health and wellness from a healing or a healer perspective, but even just your own sort of mental processes that
Mm.
you can you don't have to go the long way around. And especially now, Karen, after everything we've been through, we definitely don't have to go the long way around any longer.
Well,
Definitely.
yeah, I totally love that story about like going to the in-laws. It's like that, making that choice. Now, obviously, the underlying um ingredient is consciousness, right? Like
Totally.
our consciousness and being willing to shift. And I really like experimenting and challenging myself. So I just want to tell you my B story. I don't think you know my B
Yeah.
story. So
Okay. Tell me your B story.
this is the day before my week-long training that I'm
Yeah.
doing in person, my light warrior training camp.
Yeah.
And
Love.
going back and forth, in and out the house, because I'm bringing jewelry into the copper pyramid and doing like infusion and all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I'm going in and
Yeah.
out. Our screen door had torn because a dog went through it, not my dog, and so it was out for repairs. So I was the other door is really heavy and made of glass, so I was banging it every time. Well, apparently there was a hornet's nest.
Oh,
I
no.
did not like me banging the door in and out. So I'm on my way out to the pyramid, and all of a sudden I feel a sharp stabbing pain in the back of
Oh.
my shoulder.
Mm,
And it hurt enough that I went, ow, really loud.
mm.
And James
Yeah. Yeah.
heard, and he comes running and goes, oh no, I think it's a hornet, right? So, and I thought, but the thing was, this is the cool part. I was like, immediately I was like, well, I could see this as poor me, blah, 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 right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or I could go, ooh, I can't wait to see what comes out of this. This must be for a good
Yeah.
reason. And I was immediately able to shift that.
Shift. Yeah. Totally.
And then it's like I teach like my students, like, well, you give your mind something to do instead of it going
Yeah.
blah blah blah. So I said,
Yeah.
I
Totally.
basically said, oh, I can't wait to see what good comes out of this, right? And so I'm
Yeah.
sitting there like working on my slides, last minute changes and things like that, and I'm feeling this pain back here. I said, James, can you just check that the stinger isn't in here? He says, no, it's not there, but boy, do you have a welt, right?
Yeah.
And
Right.
I thought,
Yeah.
well, I could do what I normally do. I'm going to put a patch on it and blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, no,
Yeah.
no, no, we're going to do this differently. So I literally was just feel the pain. Like I would just
Yeah.
be working and I'd be like, feel the pain,
Mm.
accept it, love it, embrace it, feel the pain, right? And it just whoosh,
It just
like,
drops.
now it wasn't
Yeah.
instant, but and I was freaking busy. But it was
Yeah.
really neat to be able to do what I needed to do, but
Yeah.
also just be with it. And it just
Yeah. Yeah.
disappeared. And James was like, he's like, he says, did you put a patch on it? I'm like, no. He's like,
Yeah.
I don't see anything. And so I got
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
beautiful bee story or hornet story to tell my students the next day.
Yeah, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. And one of the keys with that, sort of from this sort of model idea, is, and a good way for someone practically to think about this, right? Because the concept we're talking about here, Karen, might be a bit too big a leap for someone to take straight away. What do you mean I can go from sad to happy or sickness to wellness or, whatever it might be instantly? That doesn't make logical sense. How do how would I do that? And again, you're right. Consciousness helps, right? You've got to expand your consciousness. You've got to start to sort of be in this sort of quantum dimensional experience. And I often say to my students, as you've got to expand your dimensional brain, or at least activate your dimensional brain to be able to access some of this sort of stuff. But I think you bring up a really interesting point that one of the practical things you can do to start accessing this type of reality is maybe not necessarily desperately trying to go, oh my God, I'm going to try and make this sort of leap. But wherever you are on this circle, right? So for you with the bite, maybe what happened, that there's a bite here and a welt and a swelling and all of that to what do we call it? Healed on this side where there's no swelling, there's no pain, there's no any of that sort of stuff. And I think what often we do is we start this journey, we put patches on, or we even start thinking positively like you did to a degree. But the way to then access this, especially if you've started this process and it's sort of hard to reverse it, is rather than continuing the journey, is to go straight into the middle.
Mm-hmm.
The middle right here is an access point to then be able to jump to here or to here or to here or anywhere you want, where you jump
Mm-hmm.
anywhere instantly, right? So part of what you just did is you jumped into that center, right, where you could then make a conscious choice about, well, what do I want to experience from here? And it could be, like in your case, you sort of had this wonder about you, right? Wonder, it's like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen, right? And wonder might be here or it might be here or wherever it is, but you're able then to jump directly to it. And it's almost like this, the center of this circle or sphere or whatever we want to call it is a portal or a gateway into wherever you want to go, right? And the old saying is sometimes you have to go through, to get over something, you need to go through, right through the
Right.
middle of it. And this is one of the reasons why, because it gives you an access to anywhere on this circle of healing or circle of emotion or circle of whatever it might be. You can then instantly pivot anywhere you want to go.
Oh, that's cool. I love the modeling. I call this going to 0 point or 0 point
Yeah, it
field, or
is. Yeah, 0 point for
so
sure.
that all possibilities are available
Yeah,
to
yeah,
us.
yeah.
Yeah,
And that's
that's
only available in the middle, in the 0 point field or the 0 point energy or whatever you want to sort of call it. It's only available when you're right in the center.
and there's something in Activator Healer Coach that you taught us called the cave journey,
Yeah,
which was
absolutely.
consistently going to the center of the, in this case,
Correct.
discomfort.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it's a psychological version of this where you just continually go into the center until something else appears, right? And
Yeah, that's
if the
super cool.
initial yeah, if the initial sort of response is pain, like you get bitten by an insect, often the initial response is pain, then swelling, and then whatever else, right? Uh, you can jump onto the pain straight away and go right into the center of the
That's
pain,
exactly what I
and
did. Yeah.
yeah, and it
I was like,
disappears,
feel the pain,
right?
feel the pain, feel the. I do
Just
joke a little bit, Marcus, about how pain is easier to do this with than
yeah,
itching.
yeah.
Itching's a little
Itching's an
bit more
interesting
challenging
one.
for me.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Itching is an interesting one, and yeah. Sometimes when we're meditating, that comes up. When you're meditating, and then you get this itch right on the end of your nose, and it's like, okay, I'm not gonna itch it. I'm not gonna itch.
Just feel
And
it, just feel
again,
it, just feel it.
that's right. Just go right into the middle of it, and it disappears. It does disappear. And if you can resist long enough by focusing on going into the itch, because the issue with when you focus into the center is generally that thing amplifies before it dissipates, which means the pain gets worse or the itch gets worse. And you just have to go right to the center, and the center is the most amplified version of it, and then it just magically just goes bang,
Yeah,
disappears.
yeah.
And that's kind of the interesting sort of part of it. So yeah,
It is
it's
fascinating.
yeah, it
Well, because
is.
most people, just grant, I'm just going to speak to most people,
Yeah,
and I do this sometimes as well, is that we want to avoid the pain. We want to
totally,
get rid of it, and
totally.
or the itch. So that's why we scratch it, and that normally does not work. Instead of going into the
No,
center, like that
that's
the
right.
human, the average human is programmed and
Yeah.
trained to avoid pain, right?
And that's this journey, right? The avoiding
Mm,
pain gets us to run around this journey.
mm.
And in that, right, the pain persists and continues on and doesn't dissipate as fast as it possibly could dissipate because as we run from it, we inadvertently carry it with us and it chases us and the energy that we're putting out almost invites it to come with us and to continue to amplify and to feel
Wow.
well it might not get it might not amplify hugely but it's
Right.
can persist, right? And our
Because we're
energy sort of
judging
carries
it,
it.
because
Yeah,
we're
we're and because we're sort of in an avoidance part, right? And the
okay.
pain often comes up to give us a message. Now,
Hmm.
whether that's a message of okay, you need help because you've broken your arm or something, or whether it's a more spiritual, deeper message, and until we go into it to sort of be with whatever's going on, it will continue to persist. It's almost like the minute you acknowledge it, it goes, okay, I don't need to do that as much anymore, right? The person, the consciousness has got it, it's aware of it. I can now settle and just, let it go because the person got it.
Well, that brings up another instance or an issue, Marcus, is that people often will say, okay, I have this chronic thing. I did some healing. It feels so much better, but then
Yeah,
it came back.
yeah,
Right. So what's that about? Because they've gone through these layers and layers of beautiful, beautiful healing, but somehow their body defaults to that symptom. And is it because your
yeah,
body's just saying, well, I kind of know how to do that to give you this message? Or is it that they're not yet fully healed or there's more
yeah.
layers? Like, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, look, it can have to do with more layers, but generally, if there's this sort of, reoccurrence or slipping sort of back, then yeah, I think what you're saying, they either haven't fully got it, right, or it's a different layer of it, so it's actually not the same thing. We think it might be the same thing, but it's actually not. It's something now. It's a different layer of something similar. Again, I like to bring everything back to sort of resonant patterns and resonant fields
Mm,
because otherwise there's too much judgment around what is this thing, and then
yeah.
and that's the other problem. You start judging or overlaying opinions, beliefs, that
Yep.
sort of
I
stuff, and
should be
that's going to
better by
interfere.
now.
Well, that's right, yeah, and that's going to, that's going to affect it. But if we just see it as a field of resonance or frequency, then we attend to the frequency, and as the frequency shifts and changes, then we just deal with whatever that thing is that's appearing. When we're looking at things more grossly, then we're not going to see the subtleties of how things shift and change. And actually, the thing you're experiencing now looks the same on the surface, but actually is a different frequency. And it's a frequency getting closer
Ah,
to what you might call healing. And I see this a lot of the time with people with chronic illness, right? Like my chronic fatigue, and I've worked with lots of chronic fatigue, patients or people who are, who have acquired that or given themselves chronic fatigue, and so often there's a very up and down journey with that, and the up and down journey has a lot to do with sort of the belief around it, and the expectation around it. And because we're not necessarily tuned into the subtleties of how this sort of process at a dimensional level works, the brain and the emotions don't necessarily think that it's healing, right? So there's this up and down because it's not connecting with the subtlety of the journey itself, right? When you notice that, okay, my outside world and my sort of, practical, physical, conscious world doesn't seem to have changed much, but you drop into that more sort of quantum or subtle energetic field and you notice, wow, things have really changed. There's a big difference there. And because we live in a world of delayed response physically, and it's done on purpose right now, because if things materialize based on what we think and feel, we'd be in more chaos than we are right now.
there'd be a
There's,
big purple
oh my
elephant in my
God.
room right now.
Yeah, there would be. And that could be fun, right? But, it makes them make a mess of of your
Oh
office,
yeah,
that's
I
for
forgot
sure.
how big their poop is.
Yeah,
Oops.
that's exactly right. So, so there's this delayed sort of response from what's actually going on to what we see in a physical environment around us that's going on. And so therefore there's this, oh, I think I'm getting better. No, I'm not really. Bang. Oh, I think I'm getting better. No, I'm not really. When actually the resonance of it, the frequency of it is getting better, is retuning
Mm.
itself, is reconfiguring itself, is, as you know, what we call stabilizing itself, right? And it is actually improving, but because of the psychology and the level of conscious awareness, they don't sense it is. And then you overlay all of the benefits of not getting well, which is often what created the problem in the first place, right? Is the payout for
Yeah, the secondary
potentially
gain. Yeah.
that one, right? So that
Yeah.
then keeps haunting them and keeps coming back. So they start to get better, that sabotages it. The disconnection between actually getting better and not getting better sabotages it, and then of course they crash again, and there's this sort of up and down sort of process. And so we often
Mm.
talk to people, and certainly with our practitioners, as you know, we talk about preparing people to get well.
Yeah.
So the preparing people to get well is using this sort of model, right? Where you go, okay, we're going to take someone, our clients from, sick to well, and theoretically we could do this jump, right? But because of state of mind, because of upbringing, because of coding, because of a whole lot of things, that might be possible, but holding that space may not be possible right now. Then there's a little bit of a journey that we might take them on to prepare to do this. So rather than take him on the big circle, which allopathic medicine might do, we actually circumvent and take them on this little journey, right? Which actually is preparing for someone to become well. And then once the
Mm.
prep phase is done, they do the jump, they do the quantum leap or the dimensional leap from sickness to wellness. And it seems like a miracle healing. I think sometimes the mistake a lot of sort of practitioners sometimes make is they either want this quantum leap straight away, or they take them on the longer journey. And on this longer journey, what they're hoping to see is, I'm really sick here. I'm a little better here. I'm more better here. Oh, I'm 50% better here. I'm, you know, I'm 90% better here. Oh, wow, I'm better, right? So they're wanting this. Now, part of the issue with wanting that is that is a sort of almost a practitioner, almost ego type process, right? Which is, wow, look at me. I've got some success with this client. Wow, look at this. And these are each session, right? Each session, oh, they're 10% better. Each session, they're 10% better. Yay, look at me. Isn't that wonderful?
Mm.
Rather than going, okay, I'm just going to take myself out of the picture. I don't really care whether, I don't care if it works or not work or, it's not. I'm not attached to the outcome, right? Then I go, okay, let's not even try to make them well or heal them or whatever you want to call it, right? Let's just help them, help them to prepare to heal. Let's just take them on that journey of preparing to heal. And we shorten the circle journey, right? So that it then looks like that once we get back to here where they're now prepared, they do that sort of leap and it looks like a rapid healing. But you're
Oh,
preparing
that's
them to heal.
super cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which I think just takes us as healers out of the picture. It's like, okay, I'm not going to try and heal them. Right? I'm going to take, I'm just going to help prepare them, get them ready to heal,
I
and
love that.
then bang, they heal.
Okay. Oh, cool. Well, one
Yeah,
clarification
yes,
before we talk about your supercharge your healing abilities workshop
yes,
is you mentioned earlier about from sadness to happiness is actually
yes,
similar, but for
yeah,
most people it's like, well, wait a second. I thought like, power versus force, Hawkins talks about, shame being up here and joy being up here. Like, how could
yeah,
it be
yeah,
similar? But I was wondering whether when you talk about, and I talk about it as well, waves coming to the shore when it comes back, is it the same,
yeah,
the same size, but
correct,
just the opposite?
correct.
Okay.
That's exactly what it is. And so if you take Hawkins' work, which I'm a bit, I love the Hawkins work, having been a kinesiologist, trained as a kinesiologist and love his work. If you take that linear sort of model he's got and wrap it, you've got
Ah,
exactly what we're talking about, right? So,
okay.
shame, enlightenment, again, it's the same energetic quality,
Is
right?
that on a
But
circle actually, or not really?
well, you put it on, you can wrap it
Okay.
around itself
Okay.
and make it a circle, right?
You're going to make that
So
for us, right, Marcus?
right now.
No, no,
Yeah,
no,
I'll
no,
make that.
not right
I
now.
know what you mean. Yeah, yeah.
In our
Well, we could do that.
bonuses,
I haven't done that yet, but yeah, I think that's a good idea.
part of the
And
matrix, and we'll talk about
yeah,
where people can
yeah, we can
connect
do.
with you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think you're right. It's like the wave sort of. It's similar to that wave function idea where where you've got peaks and troughs in wave functions like this, peaks and troughs, and the same energetic quality. It's the same height, it's the same sort of energy, it's the same frequency. It just looks like it's the opposite sort of side to that to some degree. Could look at it a little bit like that. But these two at this end are definitely the same frequency. And if you look at this as a frequency wheel, right, and
Hmm.
you say, um, one, 1 hertz versus 100 hertz or whatever, what we're seeing is the sort of 100 hertz is down here, 1 hertz is here, and both of these are at sort of 1 hertz, and they're the same type of frequency, the same similar, very similar frequency. You could probably look at it as different octaves. There's a lot of different ways to look at it from a resonant frequency point of view, which we probably don't have time to go in right now. But just know that the two aspects at the top of this circle have the same, very, very similar energetic sort of frequency components, and it's why we can jump from one to the other because the
Mm.
the resonance itself is nearly identical. That allows us to jump from one to the
That's
other very,
cool.
very quickly.
Wow. Marks, this has
Yeah.
been super awesome. I think next time we get
Yeah.
together, we're going to talk about some of the frequency medicine stuff that you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, let's do
Um,
that.
yeah. And
That'd be fun.
yeah, tell people about your supercharge workshop. We have the
Yeah,
link down below in the show notes,
absolutely.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So So yeah, my Supercharge Your Healing Abilities sort of workshop is a live event that that I'm running from time to time. It's live or it's a recorded version, but and I talk about all things sort of dimensional, really. I talk a bit about the history of how we got to where we are right now. We talk a bit about some of the ancient technology that ancient Egyptians possessed. So we talk a bit about ancient Egypt. We talk about things like sacred geometry. We talk about frequency, resonant fields, and we do some really great practical sort of things within that training. We do some real practical meditations to help you to connect with the dimensional realms. We do some practical work around activating the geometry within you. And it's a whole lot of fun. It's a sort of 3-hour experience where we dive really deep into this sort of realm of experience and this ability to heal rapidly. And how you can activate that within you, either within you because you want to heal, or within your clients because you're a beautiful, amazing healer. And I show you sort of practical ways to be able to do that, and it's a whole lot of fun.
It is. It is. I have the benefit of both, learning your healing modality, being level 1, level 2, and all the new stuff that you're
Yeah,
creating. And you and I are constantly creating new stuff because it's just so fun.
it is.
And
It's
this
so
is
much fun.
deeper dives into stuff. And then also,
Yes.
I get the benefit of getting business mentoring from you as well.
Yeah.
Ongoing, and right now it's only for the Activator people. So I
Yes.
don't know if your ears ring a lot of times or because I'd be like, well, Marcus said, well, I just talked to
Yeah.
Marcus and he had this great idea. Anyway, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah. 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 It's
it's
beautiful.
great. We
Yeah.
benefit a lot from your two
Thank
ends of
you.
expertises. So that's
Yeah.
what
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. I think it is.
all right, great, Marcus. Thank
Yeah.
you so much
Appreciate it.
for
Thank you.
joining us
Yay.
today. Yes, thank you, thank you. Thanks
Appreciate
for
it.
everyone else as well
Yay.
to join Light Warrior Radio. We'll put the links below that you can connect with Marcus on Facebook, the Heart of the Matrix on Facebook, as well as communities, other communities, and the Supercharge Your Healing Abilities. We'll put that link down below for you to register, and it's definitely well worth it. I've watched it probably about 9 or 10, and I've lost track how many times because I always learn something new, and Marcus always
Yeah.
has cool drawings.
Yay. Thanks, Karen.
Thank you again.
Love it. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. See you next time.